It turns out that there is a whole other side to this complicated tale, and it all comes back to Kirk. For years, people thought they understood the real story behind M's professional troubles. Now that Yandy Smith has finally had enough, she is accusing Russ and wants explanations. What she just revealed is: how profound is this betrayal? How long has Kirk been surreptitiously impeding M's success? And why did Rasheeda keep quiet about it? These questions stun the whole hip-hop and love communities. Additionally, you should wait to hear what Kirk did behind the scenes to keep M from getting back on his feet. This story is becoming more and more bizarre by the minute. But hold on, for madness is on the horizon. In light of what I've experienced, particularly after finding out that Kirk Frost of the reason her man's profession never took off the way it could have might be attributed to all individuals. In Atlanta, it all started at a prominent industry gathering where the tension was high enough to sever with a knife. After years of hearing whispers tales, Yandy finally had receipts this time, and she knew that seeing Rasheeda would provide her the opportunity to learn more. This tale is going to take a turn that no one could have foreseen for years. So let's take a moment to look back. Enz Harris put significant effort on the field. Despite his excellent work ethic and relationships with talented people, he was unable to achieve success. Every time he was about to make a big move, something would go wrong. A contract would suddenly come to an abrupt end. A cooperation that had been promised would inexplicably vanish, and the doors that should have been open for him somehow slammed shut in his face. The same names kept coming up, and at first, she thought it was simply poor luck, because the profession can be brutal after all. However, she soon spotted a troubling pattern. Although his past is ugly, as you may well know from watching Love and Hip Hop, Kirk Frost isn't exactly known for being the most honest man in the game. However, this was something else entirely. Yandy had good reason to believe that Kirk had been scheming underground to keep me from ever making it big. What would Rasheeda think if Kirk were involved? Did she have knowledge of her involvement, or was she as unaware as the others? Yandy had come to Kirk specifically to ask him that question. People were chatting, the cameras were rolling, and the room was busy during that occasion. Keeping his stern appearance, Yandy looked directly into Rasheeda's eyes and said, "We need to talk." Yandy finally revealed the truth about your husband when Rasheeda arched an eyebrow and sipped her drink as though she didn't care one way or another. When she stated those words, the atmosphere in the room changed, and people started to glance around because they thought something important was going to happen. Rasheeda flipped back her hair and sneered. And him? Prior to speaking, Yandy inhaled deeply to regain her composure. "I want to know whether you were not on it, because I am aware of what he did to me." The gloves were taken off. She paused the smile long enough for Yandy to see, and then she burst out laughing. "What on earth are you discussing, girl? When a deal indeed was made, it always ended badly. And Kirk has been playing the role of a puppet master, making sure my man didn't receive the opportunities that were rightfully his. So I need to know if you were part of this or merely observed it." Rasheeda's brows furrowed. "But Yandy, you must actually listen to what you're saying." But since Yandy wasn't intimidated, and the receipts I have don't lie, you should start talking. Now that a small group of people had assembled, they were muttering to each other and pulling out their phones because everyone knew that you had better get the drama on tape when it happened. Rasheeda laughed. "Girl," but only for a moment did her smile falter enough for Yandy to observe. "What on earth are you discussing?" Yandy wasn't giving up. "I'm referring to the fact that every time M had a deal arranged, something went wrong, and Kirk continuously played the role of a puppet master, ensuring that my guy and any of them received the chances he was due." I want to know now if you were actively part of this or merely saw it. Rasheeda's gaze squinted. Mandy, you say. But Yandy didn't seem to mind. Oh, since the receipts I have now don't lie, you should start talking. Since everyone knew that you had better get drama on camera when it happened. A small throng had gathered, and people were muttering and pulling out their phones. As if things couldn't get any stranger, the throng surrounding them began to swell, and people began muttering and grabbing phones like wildfire. No one was missing the clash, and everyone knew it would be of the love and hip-hop variety. However, you're telling me that my husband, Kirk, was involved in M's career because Rasheeda refused to let Yandy dominate the conversation. Why would he care at all? As Mendeecees was about to sign a transaction that would propel him to a new level. A deal that, surprise, surprise, Kirk's small network managed to block. Yandy stepped closer, lowering her voice just enough to maintain the tension. And you're going to sit here and act as though you don't know anything about that? Rasheeda hated it when her lips formed a thin line. So Yandy knew that it was put on the spot. But Rasheeda was no fool. She knew her husband, and more significantly, she was aware of how the industry operated. Kirk would probably do this, but Yandy, you're not going to acknowledge it in front of others. Rasheeda's tone was cool and collected as she added, I think you've been misinformed. If you have receipts, show them. Otherwise, don't come at me like this. Oh, you want receipts? Yandy said with a sly smile at the screen. The moment Rasheeda saw what was on the phone, the mood of the room shifted dramatically. An email thread that linked Kirk to multiple blocked agreements that were supposed to be M's big break was as clear as day. Adding insult to injury, Kirk personally wrote to a well-known business figure that M wasn't a suitable fit for a certain label. This was a clear signal to Black, and anyone who grasped the game's mechanics realized it wasn't just a suggestion. Unable to ignore what she saw, Rasheeda gripped her drink tightly and pressed her fingernails into the glass. Where did you find this? The fact that it happened, and that I need to know if you weren't on it, is what matters, even though Yandy raised an eyebrow. Breathing slowly, Rasheeda glanced around at the cameras and the people observing. Since she was in a tight spot and realized it looked awful, she started to pick her words carefully. I was unaware that Kirk was acting in this manner, assuming it's true. Yandy stopped her. Quit teasing me, girl. It's clear to you what you're seeing. For an instant, something flickered in Rasheeda's face as she hesitated. Or was it just the knowledge that she might have been duped like everyone else? Or was it remorse or guilt? I will no longer stand here and act as though Kirk never approaches me without telling me. I'd assure you, Yandy, I was not aware of this. Rasheeda admitted that her voice had become hushed, almost as though she were expressing something she would rather not say. Yandy studied her expression for signs of deceit. She can see one, to be honest, but that didn't go away. Thereafter, you should inspect your hubby. I'm not going to let him get away with it, Yandy replied firmly, because what he did was not only dubious, but also career-ending. With a sigh, Rasheeda shook her head. I have to speak with him. You do, Yandy said, taking a step back and crossing her arms, because I will take care of this if you don't. All of a sudden, the tension in the room increased dramatically, because this was no longer merely a confrontation, but rather war, a warning, and Rasheeda. Yandy meant every word when she made a vow like that, and Rasheeda knew it. Knowing that she needed to reach Kirk as soon as possible because if what Yandy was saying was accurate, and Kirk had truly destroyed M's career, then this wasn't just some industry drama. It was about power treachery and a secret that might destroy everything. The anxiety was strong as she left Yandy. With her heels clicking on the floor, Rasheeda ran to the front door of her house. Casually, Kirk was scrolling while seated on the couch. He understood what had happened the moment he saw Rasheeda's face, even though he was still using his phone. With his phone down, he inquired, and Rasheeda folded her arms and said, "That's what I want to know. If the severe receipts Yandy had just brought to me were authentic, we were in big trouble." Kirk scratched his temples and moaned, "I'm not sure what you're talking about, Rasheeda." "Kirk, please don't play D with me," she spoke in a strong tone. "Did DC's deals get blocked because you pulled strings or not?" With an inscrutable face, Kirk leaned back. Kirk sighed gently, looking at Rasheeda as though he wasn't sure how much to say, and said, "Tell me the truth." His elbows were then resting on his knees as he leaned forward. "That was all business, but I did make some calls and express my views." Kirk gave a head shake, and Rasheeda's mouth dropped open. "I only ensured that the appropriate individuals knew what they were getting into without sabotaging anything. All I did was make sure he didn't get into too much trouble." The only assurance Rasheeda needed was Kirk's stillness as she took a trembling breath. "Oh my God, you were threatened." Kirk turned away, his jaw clenched. "Who got to you? Who made you do this?" Pulling himself to his feet, Kirk wiped his face. "Look, Rasheeda, the industry isn't just about talent, it's about survival." Kirk's voice hardened. She said, shaking her head, "And you don't even realize what you've done." "I did what I had to do. If I hadn't made that call, it wouldn't have been just M's career on the line. It could have been worse." "What do you think? Yandy's just going to let this slide?" When she stated, "You need to stay out of this, Rasheeda, for your own good," she didn't hear her since she understood that the situation wasn't finished. She finished the next day while Yandy was waiting. If Kirk believed he could get away with this, he was in for another surprise. Yandy knew previously, as Rasheeda showed up with the appearance of having no sleep at all. "You talked to him?" Rasheeda nodded, her face too blurry to decipher. "And you were correct." Naturally, Yandy flashed his eyes, and I could tell now whether he was working alone or if there was more going on. Now that she was forced to decide between speaking the truth and keeping Kirk safe, Rasheeda hesitated. She inhaled deeply before deciding to tell him. Yandy was about to blow everything up, and the game altered because it was about something far bigger than me anymore. It was about the deepest secrets of the industry finally being revealed, not about Kirk, Rasheeda, Yandy, or even the mess. Who else is engaged in this mess? Will Rasheeda back Kirk, or will she expose him for his actions? Will Yandy take this fight to the highest level? These are the true questions that now need to be answered. After all, who is in control if Kirk was forced to leave the game? There is yet more to this narrative, and I can assure you that everyone will be shocked by what comes next. Please tell me if Kirk was acting dishonestly or was defending himself. This drama is only beginning, so set up notifications, hit the subscribe button, and stay tuned if you want to be the first to know when the next bombshell discovery happens. Just got lethal. Mendeecees and Kirk Frost are no longer merely teasing one another. Even if we believed we had seen it all in love and hip-hop, maybe someone won't survive this torture. But wait, was I set up by Kirk? Did the camera capture this mafia-level ambush? What's causing DC to appear for blood and then abruptly drop? Let's just say, buddy, that nobody is safe, even though the streets are chatting and blogs are flourishing. We got purported CCTV evidence, information that was leaked, and some awful receipts that will make you. Put some popcorn on the table, and let's examine the mayhem, drama, and peril that surround this hip-hop and love battle. You were unprepared for what was going to happen, I assure you. Kirk Frost and Mees are two names that have been making waves in the love and hip-hop community for all the wrong reasons. Soon, Kirk Frost will be shown acting in a frantic manner, using power moves, and, most importantly, losing everything. Backstabbing private meetings and covert activities that have the potential to significantly alter the course of events are what we are discussing. For a moment, let's go back in time. Is anybody familiar with me? Several scandals have surrounded him, ranging from his court cases to his terrible connection with Yandy Smith. What if I told you this is more than a pointless reality TV program? People are conversing in the streets, and the tea is hot. Whispers, however, have always been present behind the scenes. Kirk Frost, a man whose reputation has been established as a nice guy, a father, and a businessman, has never been as clean as he would like you to think because of scandals involving dubious financial dealings and dishonesty.